finally made it. Today is the official launch of my Line 6 Helix WGT patch, and it's been over a year in the making. It's because I just wasn't satisfied. I had to go backwards and forwards, week in, week out, serving at church, listening to the online stream, getting feedback from the sound engineer, playing at different events, playing at different conferences, different venues, and just tweaking and chasing tone and benchmarking against a whole lot of other worship patches, because I wanted this to just work. I wanted it to sit in the mix where it's meant to sit in the mix. I wanted to have all the convenience of all the snapshots and the settings that are just going to work for the everyday worship guitarist serving on a Sunday morning or a Sunday night, just wanting to do their best to serve God and be a blessing. So before we get stuck into the walkthrough and some demos, you're going to need to know a few things. Number one, this patch is free. I don't really want to charge for anything on my channel. I just do it for free because I want to be a blessing. Number two, you need the latest version of HX Edit and your Helix firmware. And the patches are designed for full blown Helix hardware, I guess. So Helix LT, Helix floor, rack, and that I think that's about it. But if you've got an HX Stomp, you can still run the amp only patches as well if you want. It doesn't come with any IRs. I don't own IRs. I don't make my own IRs, but you can get plenty of free ones in the links down below. Please, disclaimer, do read the instructions, the README file in the download link below, because you're going to need them to get the most out of it in terms of global settings and the recommended usage for it. But without any further ado, let's get it stuck right into it. So having a look over here, I've got my patch loaded up in default, set to 70 BPM, and I'm going to talk through it in terms of how I built it up from the ground up. So as you can see, it's a stereo patch. My recommendation is that you use it stereo if you can when you're serving at church or wherever you're using this patch. Obviously, if you're using your headphones, you're going to hear it left to right because I've got a stereo amp setup. And if you missed my video on how to set up stereo amps and what was basically the foundation or basis to this patch, you can catch it in the link that is showing right now. Alright, let's check it out. So basically what's going on is I've got two amps. My first amp is an AC15 set up on the left channel, and my right amp is a Fender Princeton, and basically I don't really tweak much of the settings from stock, but I do reduce a couple of things. So hum and ripple, they just add weird harmonics and buzz, obviously, so I just turn those all the way down for both amps, so I don't need them. And I set the gain and presence to sort of balance the amps a bit more, because the Princeton is a bit darker, but I don't want it that much darker that it's going to give me a completely unbalanced feel between the left and right. So if we were to hear the amp sort of dry, you get this sort of sound. Alright, so that's just my amp sound clean. Just slightly edge of breakup type of tone, so that's my clean tone, dry signal. Now what I do on top of that, I like using, so in the cab block here, we'll have a look here. So I've got the 1x12 Bluebell, which is kind of whatever is default for the AC15, and the 1x12 Princeton speaker as well to go with it. Now I'm using 40-38 ribbon mics on there. I found they just gave the best balance of warmth and clarity. Both set up pretty much identical, 3.5 inches away from the cone. I've disabled the low and high cut because I don't want to process that. They are process that in the EQ block here. So as you can see, I've got an EQ block right here, and once again, just cutting some lows there, 250 Hertz, just to sort of clean up, because once again, we're playing in a huge environment. Right? A lot of worship guitarists play with reverb, delay, there's pads, there's synths, there's bass, there's vocalists, like sometimes 6 vocalists, maybe more, you know, another guitarist, all that sort of stuff. So we just want to have that bit of clarity sitting in the mix. So just cleaning up the mud there. So just a fun fact, usually with audio, the human ear apparently can only distinguish 3 decibels minimum intervals, so that's why I sort of tend to use that as my starting point. And then I'm just boosting the 3 kilohertz, no, 2.5 kilohertz, and boosting the 5.5 kilohertz, which is kind of just the top end of what we're really hearing on the guitar. I have some low and high cut there, 120 hertz, because I feel like anything below that starts to get a little bit boomy. And cutting it around 7 kilohertz, I mean, some people like to cut a bit lower, some people like to cut a bit higher. I think it's just preference. Anywhere between 5.5K to 8K, I think is pretty reasonable. So that's what we're processing to get the sound, the dry sound we want out of the amps. And also, not to mention, of course, compressors. I like to use the LA Studio Comp just to sort of even everything out right at the end of the signal. And also, I like using, don't judge me, the red comp, which is based on the MXR Dynacomp, which I had for years and years and years, and it's basically like, you know, just an always on reliable tone shaper. It just adds a bit of warmth, a bit of clarity. You want to hear a difference with it on and off. So if I turn it off right now and I do something like some harmonics, compressor on, alright, just that bit of warmth and a bit of balancing the softer notes has just been lifted a bit higher there and giving you the sustain that you need. So all those blocks that we just talked about, including the volume pedal, those are always on. So the amps are on, always on, the cab's always on, obviously, EQ block and the compressor at the end and the compressor at the beginning of the chain. The reason why I put the volume pedal here is so that it's not messing with the compressor volume, and you're able to. So I like having the volume pedal affecting the gains of my drive pedal, so that's why these overdrive pedals here just after the volume pedal. So it's almost simulating turning the guitar volume knob here, because I used to love to swell all the time using the guitar volume, which is great for Strats and PRSs. I don't have a PRS anymore, still have a Strat, but with all my guitars now, it's a bit hard to sort of swell with the volume control. So I rather swell with my the pedal, obviously. Now let's just go through the other block. So with the pitch block here, I'm using a Smart Harmony with just a simulated POG. The reason why I throw that right at the beginning is because basically don't want that to be contaminated by other effects as we're going along. I find you get the purest sound, almost like if you're doing octaves, I might as well get the Helix to process that right away and get a purer sound replication on my guitar tone, sending it through to the rest of the effects chain. At the beginning here, I'm not putting any noise gate on. You can if you want to, if you find that it's noisy in your situation, but I just prefer the guitar to breathe and let notes ring out as long as possible. I don't find the buzz too bad at all. I mean, we're dealing with digital bricks here, you know, gone are the days where we have all the crazy, gremlins and cables and pops and buzzers and all sorts of weird stuff going on. Anyway, so drives, I'm using Minotaur, which is like your transparent overdrive, which sounds great. If I were to turn that on right now, you get that sort of nice sort of crunchy sound. Right, and I'd like to layer my overdrive. So as we go through the snapshots, you'll see that if I put on another drive, now I've got both of them on, and that's the Tube Screamer. Don't judge me, I've always loved them. They work for me. This is based on the TS9, so it gives me that lead tone that is, you know, sits in the mix well, not too muddy. It's a lot of sustain and a lot of fidelity. Okay, so that's my drive pedals there. I'm using also for delay a transistor tape. Once again, I like this because it sounds kind of like an analog delay, tape delay, I guess, meant to be analog, and it's smooth. It's quite dark as it decays, so it's not getting sort of poking in the front of the mix. And it actually pans left or right dynamically, which is kind of cool. I have some reverbs in here, so the octo block is used for the shimmer. The glitz is used as pretty much a standard delay, like a Strymon, Big Sky I suppose. And the particle verb, I use that sort of for more a higher cloud vibe sort of reverb. Alright, well let's just dive into the snapshots, because I feel that's probably the easiest way to sort of talk through this and demo how I would use this. Now, I would like to use, I generally would use this patch and paste it per song. So you can see over here how from last Sunday when I was serving, I've got 5 songs in the set list. I generally just paste that patch into 5 slots and then rename it with a key. And then for each song I have a BPM up here as well. So 97 BPM for My Testimony, 72 BPM for Living Hope, and so forth. Right? Because I'm thinking like an IMD, so that gives me the set list and the keys and the tempos for everything. So I don't have to remember it on the fly. So much going on the stage. Alright, well let's look at the patches, the snapshots. So we've already been through the dry snapshot, you heard that, that's just the guitar, you're just hearing the amps and the compressors on their own, which sounds fantastic if you ask me. Okay, so that's dry sound, just amps. Now the standard clean sound is kind of the same, exactly the same thing with the delay and the reverb in there, and it sounds great, I reckon. Yeah, lovely. So it works well with picking, it works well with just rhythm, strumming chords. Okay, so by the way, the delays are set up by default to dotted eighth note. I will talk more about this here because delays is one thing that changes between patches a lot. So dotted eighth, if I wanted to, say if we're doing a faster song and we do quarter note, but if I say I'm doing 120 beats per minute song, then you can just do that. It's not a problem. Alright, so but other cool things we can do, let's say if we go back to 70 BPM, what I can do is scale it at, go to quarter note again and scale it to 75, and I get this rhythmic sort of delay. Great for songs like You Hold It All Together by Maverick City, right? Okay, so that's basically how I would tweak the delay depending on the song. So I paste it to a new preset, rename it to the song, set my delay, and save it. All right, now what were we up to? We're looking at the let's say drive. So the next snapshot is the drive snapshot. So all I've done is just engage the Minotaur, the Clon Centaur, its transparent overdrive on top of everything else I've got there. And it sounds fantastic, like this. Beautiful. What would it be good for maybe something like Who You Say I Am. I'm going to play it in G, not an F sharp. It's a bit rusty. I haven't played that song in a long time, but you get the idea. Okay, so the next one we're going to look at is the lead, which is just engaging the Tube Screamer, the Sacred Holy Grail TS9 on top of everything else. I find this is great for just mostly single note lead lines, but hey, let's just say, okay, King of Kings, verse 3. Stuff like that. But it's great for single notes, especially on the bridge pickup. It just sings, you know. Shred. Another setting I forgot to say that's probably good to turn off is your guitar end pad. So try and keep that off, unless you've got really hot pickups and you like to shred. Okay, enough of that. Now that's the lead thing. Now the POG. So the POG setting is designed for a lot of your, your usual lead lines, or it can be used with chords, but generally the lead lines that have that octave up. So it's got one octave above, and they're in the setting there. You can see that the key is set to C. Just to be on the safe side, just set it to the key that you're in, just to be sure. All right. So what's a great example? I'm in D, so I'm going to set this to D. But so let's say a good example would be Living Hope by Crosspoint Worship, their version of the song. So okay, so that's the chorus line of the song there. Just give you an example of that. What's the next snapshot? Alright, let's go to the Shimmer. I love this one. This is basically like your big sky shimmer. Great for swells, great for chords, great for picking. Any of that stuff will do good. Ta-da! Okay, so the next one is the cloud setting, which is essentially just big reverb sort of dialed up into the mix, and I guess what a beautiful name, chorus, bridge, could be a good example of that, you know. Great, last but not least, we have the pad snapshot. Now this one here is basically just telling the keyboard player to go have a break while you take over. Something like this. Yeah, boy. Alright, so that's pretty much the patch. Now, I hope you'll find them useful. I mean, you can, depending on the songs, or you can drop in other effects in there. Like if you're really old school like me, you can, hey, let's just throw in a teardrop wah. And you know, that's assigned to expression pedal 1 by default. Switch over to the wah and do some, I don't know, mighty to save or something, maybe. Do stuff like that. You can throw in a modulation, just a good old trem maybe, but gotta stay stereo. Oh yeah, another note, you gotta stay stereo. Everything from the cabs onwards is stereo, so if you're gonna add something in, make sure it's stereo. Luscious. Alright, fantastic. So basically now, just to give you an idea of the other presets that are in the patch, that also comes with an IR sort of equivalent. So what I've done here is I've got, instead of having the stock dual cab block, I've got 2 IR blocks set up in stereo once again. And the left one is paired to the SX15, the AAC15, and the right one's paired to the Princeton. So you got to make sure that you, I don't ship IRs like I said before, but if you've got your own IRs, make sure that you load the ones you want in there. I've set mine up so they sound pretty much almost the same as my stock cab ones. So, and then I've got the amp only versions, which is just the amps with the EQ and the LA2A compressor at the end there, just giving you that dry sound for HX Stomp users as well. Or if you want to just start with a clean sort of, add your own other blocks in there and effects that you want, you can do that as well. So pretty much dry sound of the amps. And then the IR equivalent, I'm using Tone Junkie IRs to sort of match with the amps that I'm using. They break up a little bit more, those IRs. Yeah, but yeah, that's essentially it. I hope that, I pray that this is a blessing to you, that you'll find it useful for your service to God and in your worship to Him. And feedback is always welcome. Please let me know in the comments or whatever what you think of it. and whether you find it useful, and the fact that it's hopefully it doesn't cost you a cent. So yeah, God bless you. We'll see you guys soon. It's almost Christmas. Woohoo!